Right, I need to just get started. I guess it looks like we're recording, so I'll go ahead and just start. Well, I'm Mandy Black, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm a Ruby ambassador. And I am going to be covering chapter 5 on problem solving. I learned quite a bit from this. I liked, he told us that problem solving is the quickest way to gain leadership. So I think it's a very important thing to get comfortable with. And I think as leaders, we no longer have only our problems to think about either. I mean, we have our team as well. We always have to keep in the back of our mind and the things that are going on with them. John says we must be pragmatic. It says pragmatism allows a person to take things that others would consider problems or distractions and see them as opportunities. So pretty much just saying we have to have that positive outlook on things that is going on. And that problems don't have to be problems unless you allow them to be. So pretty much this whole chapter talks about how problems introduce us to ourselves, to others, and to the opportunities that come with it. I just wanted to first off ask the question with you guys, just kind of to have the discussion of how do you currently handle problems? Like, have you given it a thought? Has anybody thought about how they handle problems? And it might be different with, you know, things in your life and things with your business. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on that? You guys are going to have to talk tonight.
I'll share.
Okay.
I feel like one of the biggest things I've learned in like leadership and working with other people is to not downplay other people's problems. Mm-hmm. Like when they're coming to you with a problem, it seems like the biggest thing that they're dealing with right now. And while we may be like, that's not really a big deal, like, so what if they stop taking the products? People do that all the time. But when they're coming to you because that's like the biggest problem that they have right now. Right. And so just making sure that we acknowledge their problems and spend a minute, not too long in the complaining time, but take a minute to acknowledge that that is a really big problem for them at the time, and then start addressing like how to fix it. I've also learned to like ask them questions in fixing a problem instead of just always giving the answer. And I think, you know, John talked about that a little bit, but it's so easy as leaders to want to fix everything for them. But when we do that, they become so dependent on us and they feel like they can never solve the problem themselves. And right. So like that's been huge in my growth as a leader, is to not just fix it. You know, it's like with children, like you can't just keep tying their shoes. Eventually you have to teach them how to tie their own shoes. And so kind of that same concept on a bigger scale.
Right. And it comes down to that duplication even with your business too. If you're constantly fixing everyone's problems, when you get a bigger team, you're going to be pulling your hair out because you're going to have a lot of problems to fix. Anybody else have anything? All right.
I'll go. I was going to say, I think the biggest thing when there are problems is that to be calm and don't get riled, because then whoever is relying on you realizes that it's going to be okay. We're going to get it worked through. Because I see too many times when people have problems that they flip out with them, and you can't do that. You got to say, okay, this is going to be easy. We're going to take care of this. We're going to get it done. And I think that helps a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, one thing I thought of, like, just thinking of problems, like the word problem is a negative word for me. Like I always think of it's something bad, but then it just reading this chapter got me thinking about different things. Like for my job, I have people that below me in my job that I have to deal with different things. And I never think of, you know, the emails with this problem or the, you know, questions about this thing as like a negative thing, because it's just part of my job and I know that there's going to be a solution that I can find for it. I think that's the difference there, is like he mentions in the book, we have to realize as long as we can train our minds and our brains to think that there's always going to be a solution to the problem, it makes it a whole lot easier to deal with. He then goes on, he kind of gives us those 6 lessons that he's learned, and just things that we've kind of discussed on anyways. Having relationship with your people, you know, knowing you have to have, I mean, we're all about the relationships with our business, and just that helps you be more in tune to what's going on, and it's allows you to be affected by some of the same problems so that you can help work those or prevent those from happening. And learning to let go of our need to be right, like Ashley said, and we just have to focus on that greater need more to do right. And then he said, realizing that our actions can make our problems increase. We may get more problems, we may make them worse, and it's going to happen because we're not perfect. But then just remembering that we need to take responsibility for those times and help provide a solution. I think that's huge in leadership, is being able to admit when we're wrong and when we did something wrong, and moving forward with that. And then his last one, he says, when you handle problems well, they'll make you better. And sometimes we can be, for me personally, sometimes I am tempted to avoid problems, but I like what he says on here. What you face helps you to face yourself, and what you're able to carry defines you. So just remembering that, like I said, if we can change how we think about problems, it's not going to be difficult to find a solution. So we talked about finding ourselves through problems, but then also finding more about others. And that is so true. You can find out so much about a person and how they react to problems.
Hey, Mandy, can you remind us what page that quote is on? That's so good.
Yes, I have it. I should have wrote it down. It is on page 102 at the top. So he kind of gave us a few different types of people and how they respond to problems. And I was kind of able to think of people in my own life that kind of go with each one of these. I mean, we have the people who make problems worse. You know, are they the people who throw gas on the fire or water on the fire? Then there's the problem magnets. It's like they always seem to find problems. I like how he said, who you are is who you attract. So remember that, you know, if you're constantly putting problems on yourself, you're going to find those same kind of people. But he did say those are people that can change. They just have to be willing to change. There's those that give up in the face of problems. It's just too hard and they give up. But then there's those that use problems as stepping stones for success. And that's kind of what I think a leader is, or at least the basis for a good leader. Problem solving is a choice for them. So as a leader, we need to pay attention to how our people are responding to problems. And then we have to be able to kind of coach them on how to respond correctly. I know he went through just briefly kind of how we can coach different people, and just remembering that we can't solve the problems for them, but we have to, you know, we can help them solve problems. And I was going to pull that page up too, because I should have put sticky notes all over my book. It would have been easier. Let's see. Here we go. I liked how he gave the ideas of if you have people that are wanting to be coached and help, maybe they're not great at the problem solving. I mean, we do this even with goal setting. I mean, we help people. Goals can be problems and how we work those out. But he goes over just seeing how they approach problems. You know, you have to be a good example too and show how you approach your problems. And I'll move on that. But on page 105, he does go over like a paragraph of different ways that you can help with that. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add on the just learning about others? All right. I think I'm going to spend most of my time on the opportunities, but I like, this was another quote from Albert Einstein that said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." And I mean, the most effective leaders are going to approach problems through what he calls the lens of opportunity. And I think this is just really lays out a great just stepping stones of what we need to do as leaders and what we can do with our teams. So the big thing is, first, we have to see those potential problems before they become a real problem. So what are some different problems that we can almost always expect to face with our teams and our businesses? What are some of those things that you thought of?
The first thing that jumps to my mind is people being maybe taken aback by the feedback they get as they start to post and reach out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Attrition.
Attrition.
I thought of people not having time or being overwhelmed by everything that needs to get done.
Losing motivation and not quite understanding the difference between like discipline and motivation.
Right. Yeah. I even wrote down, I had some of those. I even put down even just objections with, customers, just getting basic things like that. And just the little problems that we address every day with our teams about, Ashley said attrition. What's that?
The website.
Right. The website, our subscriptions not being said, our ambassadors not over 100 PV, just all those little things. We've got big things and little things for sure. So once we are aware of those potential problems or actual problems, we have to get a clear picture of actually define the reality of it. Like I put an example here of, let's say just for goal setting, I didn't meet my goal of, getting 3 new ambassadors or 3 new customers last month. I hope I will next month. We have to face the reality. So what is the reality? What did you do? How many people did you actually reach out to? And you didn't reach your goal, so do we need to adjust that? How many people did you follow up with? Do we need to change that number? What was your wording in reaching out to those people? Do we need to help, changing that? Things like that. So you really have to dig deep and not just be like, oh, well, this is the problem and I hope it changes. You have to actually face the reality of what is going on. And just remembering to ask questions. And because like Ashley said, we want to just jump in there and say, okay, you need to do this, 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 and this. But that doesn't always fix the problem because they have to be willing to do it. And sometimes helping them figure out what they need to do is going to make it a whole better learning experience for everyone.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I was talking to Sherry about this today, and those of us who've dived into the Enneagram probably are all kind of like figuring this out, is like there are very few people who are effectively motivated by guilt or by feeling like they should have done something and didn't do it. Like many of the personality numbers, that's actually like the worst thing, and they feel defeated by it. Or I'm thinking of 1s, I'm thinking of 9s, kind of that feeling of like, okay, I set a goal last month. I then completely ignored my goal and did not put forth the effort, nor did I reach the goal. So why even set a goal this month? Because I don't want to fail again. And so I'm just like learning over time that like that's so not productive. Sorry. So learning as leaders how to coach and offer accountability without judgment or accusation is like quite a skill. I remember them talking to us about this at Jewel training, being able to say things, okay, well, help me understand why that happened that way. And just like really learning how to be curious instead of accusatory. It is so hard, by the way. Like I am not there. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
For sure. And then so we, asking problems and listening, and then creating a framework I was trying to grasp a little bit, creating a framework to examine our problems and solutions. So I kind of thought of this as we had like 5 or 6 things, like leadership, personnel, timing, vision, priorities, and values. And so what he would do when there was a problem is kind of ask questions in relationship to those things to make sure that this problem that if you're going to work on it, is it in line with these things? And I like your priorities, I guess, with your business. Is it really the time to be working on this problem? Who's it affecting? Is it something that we need to work on, or can we just kind of say this isn't important at this time? Things like that. And I thought that was a good thing, because just learning priorities in general as a leader can be difficult. But so mastering that, I think, is something that really got me kind of thinking. He encourages, kind of figuring out almost like what's your utmost goal for your team overall, and is this affecting that, and do we need to work on it or not? And then he goes on and talks about shared problem solving. So with the 10-80-10 rule, where the 10% of the problem you're working on, just kind of setting that, I wrote it down, just defining the problem. So that's your personal 10%, you're going to define that problem, but then 80% of it, you're going to be going to your team and getting their input and their buy-in and their ideas of how to figure out this problem, which is going to help with duplication and really help teach them how to solve problems themselves, which is the goal. And then the last 10% is just you reevaluating and maybe adding a little bit of value to it, but maybe you won't have to add anything. But this only works with an environment in which people are willing to share their ideas and opinions. I feel like our team is really good at that. But what have you guys evaluated kind of where your own teams are at? Like, what do you think? Do you have a team that can easily share ideas and opinions? If so, why do you think that is? Or if not, what's something that you can do differently? Anyone? All your pretty faces are looking at me.
I definitely have a team where it's very easy to share ideas and pass them back and forth. And we have a Marco Polo group where that's really what that's for. And we're constantly talking about how we can better our team calls or better our power hours, or, all those kinds of things. And it's really, really nice to have teammates that are open to that.
That's great.
How have you fostered that? Because some people would not say the same for their team.
I don't really know. I guess because I specifically ask them for their opinions on specific things often. I mean, that's a big focus of mine, is that I want our time to be productive. I want our time to be enjoyable too. And I want us to all feel momentum together. And I don't want anything that I'm doing or not doing to hinder that. And so I constantly ask them for their ideas and their input on things, because I learned pretty quickly in this that my way is not the way that everybody typically likes things to be done, no matter how much I want it to be that way. So anyways, I make it a point to help them to own the things that we're doing as their own and to put input into them.
Definitely.
Sherry, that reminds me of what you said about how you had a light bulb with asking your team for their feedback, but then you were trying to implement it all by yourself.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, for a long time, I thought I was doing so good because I'm like asking them for input and seeing what they, what they thought needed to be done, what their teams needed, and then I was like, cool, all right, I guess I'll just roll with that. And then I didn't really know, like, I didn't have their strengths, so I didn't know what to do exactly, and then it would just kind of fall flat. So over the past couple of months, I'm still learning, but I'm like realizing that I can implement, like, empower them to lead in those areas that they see where it needs to be done, or we can assign it to other people. So that's been a great learning experience, and I wish that I knew that. I think Dawn said she wanted to know with the silver team what to do. Like, be open to that now and listen to their needs, and then let them lead and incorporate some things.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, what we've been doing as a team lately with Sherry is we'll have our Sunday night leadership call. It's under 30 minutes. We set what we want our theme to be for the week on our team page, and people give ideas, and then they all take a role in that. So it's just played a huge role in helping keep people involved and having a lot of involvement in the team page and keeping the excitement up. So that's definitely something.
And I feel like I found, like, when people suggest things like, oh, I really think we should do this, is having a little bit of discernment to say, I think that's a great idea. That's not something that I can really do at this time, but I think you would be great at that. Can you think of a couple other people that you might want to do that with, so we could get that rolling for our team and start empowering them? Because I feel like for you, Dawn, like at the beginning, I was just like, okay, I got to do this. They need this from me. Like, it's another thing I got to do. And you just keep taking on more and more things. And then you get to the point where it's like, you can't do any of them well because you have so many things. So to Dawn, I would say, like, start empowering other people to do things with you and learn alongside you, so that you have more people to share the responsibilities with.
Awesome. So then he also talks about just how we need to come up with more than one solution to every problem, because problems change and they evolve. So just, always as a leader, just being on top of that. If you're seeing things that can be coming up, happening, coming about, like we talked about with just looking at those potential problems that we're going to face no matter what, as just having a team and a business. If go ahead and start thinking about ways, different solutions for those problems, so that when they come up, or that you can address them. And then he says, be determined to explore ideas and look for more and better solutions. You might come up with a couple solutions now, but as you grow and learn and experience different things, you could come up with even better solutions to the problems. And then just cultivating a bias for action. So just have to act. Once you can start to confront and act on a problem, you begin to solve it. So if we see the problem, but we just see it and see it and see it and don't do anything about it, it's not gonna do anything. And then the big thing is actively looking for opportunities and lessons in every problem. As leaders, we are going to keep growing, and every problem provides us an opportunity for that. I liked how he went through a couple of examples of how he learned lessons or had opportunities, which this was interesting because seeing him at convention last year and how, he would sit down and talk to us occasionally. And he went over this in this chapter. He's like, at one point years ago, he hurt his back, and he was going to be doing a presentation, and so he was going to need a stool because he couldn't stand for the whole time. And then in doing so, he realized that he had a better connection with his audience, and so he does that all the time now. So I just thought that was a neat thing to see and understand. So what are some past problems that you have faced that have led to any lessons or opportunities. Anyone? Come on. There's got to be something.
I'll talk.
Okay.
I'll bail you, Andy. We had a big problem of like momentum on our team and not adding new ambassadors on. And so the only thing I don't want to say the only thing, one way that we had gotten momentum in the past was doing online Facebook events. It had been a while since we did it. So that's just where we were going to go back to. But we had a new person on our team that was agreeing and had been watching tons of videos. And she was like, we should do a 7-day swim challenge. And I was like, oh boy, like we've never done this before. I don't know how to do this. I haven't even, I think maybe I've watched this video she's talking about like a year ago. All that overwhelmed, like she wants to do something. I feel like I have to take it on. But through that, I have learned so much. 7-day swim challenges have taken over on our team. This particular ambassador, Sabrina, has been huge in leading the charge with it. And she wasn't even sober, I don't think, yet when she suggested it. And just giving her that opportunity to lead was huge for her and helped her take off. And I mean, I've learned so much. And that, as a red 3, is very hard for me to take a back seat and follow somebody else's lead on something, especially something that big, where my name was on it because I was technically the one leading it. But super, super big learning opportunity for me to just dive in and be led by somebody else and say, you know what, Ashley, whatever we're doing isn't working right now. So what's the harm in trying something else, and huge learning moment for me. So.
Right. Anybody else think of anything while she was talking? All right. Well, I'm almost done with my 30 minutes anyways. Just to kind of finish up, he mentions that just remember, problems are a chance to learn about yourself, your team, and your opportunities. And it's a way to improve your life and others and to gain influence with people. So don't be afraid of problems. We'll post this in the group, but your homework from me tonight, I want you guys to come up with 3 potential problems you see in your business or with your team, but make sure you find the reality of it. Really dig deep, come up with multiple solutions and a game plan of how you and or your team can prevent or fix them. And just remember to use those 8 ideas of looking at problems to the lens of opportunity, and just really use that system. So I am going to hand it over to Sherry so she can do chapter 6.
Thank you, Mandy. That was great. So we'll jump right into chapter 6 on attitude. And I picked this because I know he talked about somewhere in the chapter about how some people are kind of just born with like that. They're more likely to have a positive attitude. And some people it's a lot harder and they have to work on it. And in my house, it's pretty easy for me. I'm very optimistic. I can see the good in just about any situation. And I think that could partially be my 9 part not liking conflict. So I just find the good in everything. But then my husband is so different. He has to work hard to find the good in situations. So it's hard work for him. But so I know that it's probably for some people, it's like, it's just another job, but it's so worth it. And I loved that this chapter had so much meat because so many books talk about how attitude is everything and all of that stuff, but they don't go into so much depth that he did. And I loved the things that he brings to the table on this subject. So he started out having us list someone that we admire in our life, whether it's in the business or your friends or your family. And I would love to hear what some of the examples you came up with for those people were. Michelle, did you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Woo. So I know, look, I won't leave you hanging. So just thinking about like things to admire, like someone who has, and I thought of several different people, and then it kind of came down to the same kind of traits or qualities. So it's not someone who has it all or like seems to have it all together, but it's someone who has been very transparent, like in that struggle or in that journey to overcome. That like layer of perseverance, like that side of it is super inspiring. I think some people do have it easy along the way and things just come naturally to them, but more inspired by those who have had to work and overcome, and despite failures along the way or despite hardships along the way, find their faith, find their like purpose, and then just continue on.
Definitely. Anybody else want to share one of their things? Ashley?
Yes, one thing that's big for me is people that aren't afraid to be different. Like people that aren't afraid to stand up for whatever it is they believe in. God's a big one for me, but just somebody that's so confident that they are okay with being different and okay with going against the crowd.
Definitely. Love that. Does anyone else?
I'll share.
Okay. Go for it.
I was thinking about this discussion question before when I was preparing for tonight, and I couldn't help but think of Jenna Wilson. She's my sponsor, and what's kind of strange about it is I've known her since she was in college, and I was in my late 30s and so I've like watched her grow into this awesome leader. And when I first met her, I wouldn't have expected that because she was so young and meek and just a kid. But she's so passionate and patient, and she's a really good listener and enthusiastic, super creative, and her posts are what drew me into Plexus to begin with. And so I think I've got a really good mentor in this, for a lot of reasons. So she was what I thought of, and for all of those reasons. And it's fun to watch somebody grow into that you knew before they were that way.
Definitely.
So that's mine.
That's perfect. I love that. Like I had the overcoming obstacles, growing through those things. And another one I had was someone that's real and they share who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And with all of these, like I didn't even think about it whenever, like the fact that this was an attitude chapter, like I didn't write down specific attitudes, but if you look at what's behind all of those things, it's a positive attitude. They don't have a victim mindset. Any one of those people that you're thinking of, when they're overcoming obstacles and tough things, they're not saying, oh, look at me, my poor life, I'm having such a hard time. They may be able to say, this is what I'm struggling with, this is hard, but I'm working through it. So, and then whenever they're sharing their ups and the good times in their life, they're not saying, look at me, I'm better than you. They have an attitude of just like gratitude, kind of. So I thought that was really cool that he pointed that out. It was like, all of these people have a great attitude. They have a positive attitude. And I was like, they do. I didn't even think about that. But that's so important. And then he goes on to say basically what attitude affects in all of our lives, in the church and everything. And so he's basically encompassing that attitude is everything. And we have the choice. We get to choose what our attitude is. We can't necessarily choose how we feel about something, but we get to choose how we react to it. And he says that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And that is so true. And that's maybe something for, like, I've seen it, people react in different ways. For me, it's like, well, yeah, duh. That's how it is. And for my husband, on the other hand, he's like, no, I don't, Like, that's not exactly how it is. You don't have that much control. If you don't feel good about something, you can't just be happy. And you don't have to be a cheerleader. You don't have to be smiling and like, yes, I have cancer, woohoo, like, that's not what we expect in people. But there are good, positive ways we can act. And as leaders, coming at it like with the back office and all of that, yes, there have been struggles, there have been hard times, and it has caused problems for lots of people, and it has caused people to quit because they didn't have a good attitude, and they did not have what the next part that he talked about, the whatever it takes attitude. They, we have to have that attitude and come at problems with the attitude of what can we do to get through this? What can we do to overcome this? Instead of, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. This is what it is. There's always something that we can do.
Can I say something here?
Yes.
I feel like for me, when I see myself slipping into, like he describes this victim attitude where you start to whine or wait for something good to happen or say like, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. I have find that like if I'm slipping into that place, it's not a great mindset for me to like keep trying to plug away at what maybe the problem at hand, or even worse, if I start to encounter other problems, then all the people in my wake are in trouble because I'm like, oh no, like I had a business frustration the other day and my 3-year-old suffered the consequences because I had no patience. So I feel like when I start to notice my mindset slipping into this victim place, that's where I have to like be intentional about rest. Like Ashley talked about last week with the white space, or no, the week before. And there's a big difference between resting and quitting. And like most of us need to learn that like, if you get tired, you need to rest. But most people, when they get tired, they quit.
Yeah.
But like, so for me, I notice my mindset taking that dip, and that's when I know I need to rest. And so for me, rest is like, I need some intentional plexus-free time, like a goal-free zone with a beginning and an end. And then I can come back and try to look at the problem with a fresh perspective and, bring in some other trusted coaches and people to maybe help me work through it. But yeah, I don't do so well if I keep trying to like chip away at a problem when my mindset is starting to just like get into the gutter.
Yes. And I feel like that's probably like across the board. Like even like, I don't want anyone to think just because I'm like a natural optimist, or I guess avoider of problems in a way, that I don't get to that place, or that someone that is cheerful and a great leader, they struggle with that victim mindset. It's something that comes on, and a lot of the time when we're tired, that's when it's really going to hit us hard. So being able to be aware of that, and maybe having someone in your life that can, if you aren't seeing that that's happening, to be like, hey, okay, you need to take a step back. Let's, go take a few hours, take some time with your family, or for me, go sit in a closet and be in the dark for a few hours, but have it in time so that you don't just quit and stay there forever, become a hermit. Does anyone else want to add anything? Okay. So let's see, pick up back. I really liked where he talked about that imaginary line of in between getting things done and just dreaming about things, and it's the total commitment. I can catch myself, definitely. I can pinpoint lots of times where I've just been dreaming about where I want to be, but I'm not completely committed to the process and what it takes to get there. So like being a good leader and setting that good example and finding what it's gonna take to get you to that total commitment so that you can cross that line and get those things done. So like evaluate that. If you didn't while you were reading the chapter, think about, okay, what side do I lie on? Where am I right now? Because we're not going to be in the same place consistently our whole journey and our whole life. You're not, even if you're a fantastic leader, you're not going to constantly be on the getting things done side. You're going to get tired. You're going to get discouraged. You're going to get worn down, and things are going to waver a little bit, but evaluate where you are. And then he gave those steps, I think it was 7 steps to kind of help you get to that point and to have that whatever it takes mindset. And the first one was to disown helplessness. And then that came up to a question. I have new contacts in, and I think they're the wrong prescription because everything's blurry. But basically, just disowning helplessness, kind of, I wrote down, look at yourself and be honest. Have you ever played the victim card? I think that's probably yes for everyone at some point. Have you ever caught yourself in your business blaming the back office for your struggles or your upline for not providing something for you? Like, are you blaming and becoming that victim? I really liked what he said about, and I've heard other leaders of other teams, or I want to say maybe Sonia Dudley said this at something, like there's no room for excuses or complaining on her team. And he hit that really hard. Like, if you've got people, and you shouldn't be paying people, I know that's not exactly what we do, but to complain and make excuses. So like, do you have an environment that attracts complainers on your team, or what have you done maybe to create the opposite, create a good positive environment on your team? Do you have any examples?
You talked about like the gratitude journal, and I know like I've seen that encouraged at several different times. I think September shift maybe was a big time when we did gratitude journals, but just how gratitude is the best antidote to complaining. And it's so true, when you're constantly thinking about everything you're thankful for, it's hard to also be thinking about complaints or playing the victim card or something like that. So really good reminder there.
For sure. And I'll go ahead and piggyback on that. That is going to be part of your homework this week, is to make sure that you're keeping a gratitude journal. For the week is like the real homework, but really a bonus would be do it for the 30 days that he suggested and see how it affects your attitude and see how it affects your ability to combat that, like those hard times. Did anyone else have something to add on how they keep a positive environment or help with problem solving?
Well, one thing probably all the threes on the call can relate with is monitoring what gets discussed in public.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different schools of thought on this among leaders. I know some leaders are like, I want my people to have a safe place to vent if they're frustrated and all that. But I know McKenna and I both believe that like negative things need to be discussed with the people involved and not in front of the whole team. And I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
No, I agree, Carissa. Whenever like in our team, text message or Facebook message, they're especially like during the back office stuff and or when we're experiencing a lot of attrition, I let people kind of have their moment and say what they need to say and get it out. And then I'll use whatever positive, optimistic language that I can, but very clearly just cut it off. Like, all right, next topic, really trying to bring it back around like, okay, so from this point on, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do? Make a list of the people that you're going to talk to this week to bring it back around. Like, let's get back on your products. Let's go, I don't really make any bones about it. Like, I just sort of like put my finger on people and say, okay, you had your moment. We're done. Because I like to vent. It's probably not a great habit, but sometimes you just got to get it out and then just make it real clear that it's time to move on. But yeah, I do agree, Carissa. I'm almost, well, by the test, I'm almost as equal a 3 as I am a 7. So like talking about stuff in public, like even on friends who are not on my team, but are like close local Plexus friends, when people start to comment on their, like something doesn't even involve me that's negative about Plexus, like before they even have a chance to respond, I'm like, yeah, but constantly. I don't even ever want there to be a negative thing out there about Plexus anywhere, But yeah, I definitely agree there.
And I mean, I want people to feel heard.
Yes.
So I may even err too far on the side of like not cutting it off soon enough, but I just try to let them be heard in private. And then shift it toward productive conversation, like you said.
I think I'm going to say one other thing because I didn't speak up earlier, but my dad is the person, like in the very beginning of chapter 6, when he tells you to think of, a leader who exemplifies characteristics that you appreciate, and kind of like keeping the positive attitude also with the, I forget what the language was, but it's like the can't stop, won't stop. Like, I'm going to do this no matter what. My dad put himself through college when I was he finished when I was 6 months old. He spent all these years working for the company that he now owns. Went to another company for a while, made it all the way up to VP. All the promises that were made to him that they were just going to explode and go big, it completely stalled his career because he stayed with them so long. He made a huge decision to make this huge leap and take a chance on buying the business that he now owns, and he's owned it for almost 15 years. He was already a leader as the owner and acting as an engineer without his PE, his professional license, and he had to take the test 3 times before he actually passed it and was able to be a professional engineer. And so he's had all of these roadblocks throughout his entire career, and he has never been afraid to fail, ever, because we knew how many times he had to take it. All of his employees knew how many times he had to take it. He told his friends, his elder friends, he's an elder at our church, his co-elders, they were constantly praying about it. So his attitude of not ever stopping, not taking no for an answer, not being afraid to fail, and constantly feeling like, if I am keeping my mindset right, if I'm working towards my goal, if I'm surrounding myself with the right people, I will accomplish this. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm not going to be ashamed about it. That I've had to dig into that. I'm sort of having to remember all of that about my youth, because, this is while I was growing up, with sort of this stage of attrition that I've sort of been in. But, anyway, that has been an incredible example for me. And the fact that through, at least to me, one of the people he was leading at home, at the time, he kept that positive mindset and always felt like he was able to maintain for us, even when things probably felt pretty hopeless. Anyway, there's that little bit of a story.
That's super duper inspiring. I feel like just explaining your dad right there kind of hit every point in this chapter on a good leader with a attitude. Yeah. I feel like I know him now and I want to be his friend. That's really good. So I guess a couple other examples he used in that first step was a lot of things I think that Carissa and McKenna, excuse me, and Jessica and Tamara all set a great example of through our team pages, and like with challenging people to take responsibility, having us like setting us up to teach us to find solutions to our problems, making everybody feel valued, giving solid feedback, and celebrating with people as they are succeeding. And those are great things to remember. Some of those things I don't always remember, like the celebrating is one that I don't always remember, because I do enjoy like being celebrated, but it's not always like the first thing on my mind, and it's like being the center of attention is kind of hard and uncomfortable sometimes. So I just assume that it's the same way for other people. So don't assume. He talks about the only good assumptions later on in the chapter. But I'm going to jump forward a little bit to if you believe you can, basically you can. He told the story about the teachers in the school and how they basically just selected people at random, told them they were the best, and then they performed as the best. So like what are some, do you have any specific times that you can remember feeling that you're feeling empowered by someone else, by them breathing belief into you and causing you to excel in a way that you probably wouldn't have before, if that made sense? Did that question make sense? Okay. I'll go ahead and say that there have been many times that Carissa has breathed belief into me. Speaking in front of people has never been something I was very comfortable with. I mean, I have been nauseous all week knowing that I had to do this. And she speaks truth to me, even whenever I read them sometimes or hear them, I'm like, she is making that stuff up, but it feels good. But I don't think she's making it up. But it's like that little voice in my head is saying, she's making this up. You are not that great. But her being there and telling me things and sharing with me how she views me and how other people have viewed me has really helped me get out of my comfort zone and be able to talk in front of people. And I think that that's huge.
Do you think maybe it would help people for you to like just read them the text you sent me last night and read the response?
Maybe. I'll pull it up.
Why not? I mean, you already told everyone you were nervous.
And I have this just probably a similar text from Sherry tonight doing the same thing for me.
See if I can find it. I said, hey, when you get a minute, can you breathe some belief into me about leading my portion of the call tomorrow? I'm keeping good thoughts, making sure I'm prepared, but feeling a few twinges of doubt and nervousness spiking, and think some outside encouragement could help keep them at bay. Because I was so nervous. Like last night, I was like, I could feel like, I was like, man, I just want to like get sick tomorrow so I don't have to get on this call, which obviously I would probably do it even if I was sick. But, and then she said this, and it's just so amazing. It makes me feel good. She said, first of all, you specialize in surprising people with your bravery, intuition, and leadership. People sometimes sell you short because you can come across quiet, but then you deliver like a badass. Those on tomorrow's call don't know you as well because you're not often in the public eye. They have no expectation or preconceived notion other than that you are offering them value tomorrow, and they're eager to receive it and apply it. And she goes on to say more things, but I might cry because it's like, just, it's so empowering. And so keep that in mind. Like, I'd still love to hear from anyone if you have something to share, but like think of times where someone has done that for you and do it for other people, because they may not be at the point where they know to ask for it or know that they even need it. But if you see somebody struggling and you believe in them, let them know. because that will just skyrocket their abilities, basically. Does anyone want to share anything or a time that they've been empowered by someone?
I have to. It's another Carissa moment. Sorry, I'm gonna embarrass you. I love to gush about people, so sorry. Look, hey, Chris Casey. I'm sure he's saying, me too. Back early in my Plexus career last year, I was great with child, and being pregnant is like my whole Plexus journey, being pregnant and trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, and then breastfeeding. And so second pregnancy, my main goal was to not get gestational diabetes. I had it with my first, didn't want it with my second. And I was kind of on that cusp of like, okay, I'm silver and I'm almost silver and I'm ready to go gold, fast before this baby arrives. And I had my test and they came back negative, and I called my husband and my mom, and then I called Carissa, 1, 2, 3, back to back. And I just gushed and told her the whole thing. And I was so excited, just hollering about it. And she was like, you need to talk about this right now. I'm like, what? And she said, you need to do a live video tonight. You need to talk about this right now. And you need to have full belief that this is because you have been taking care of yourself and you're on Plexus products. And, you need to talk about this. And I had never done a live video before. And I was just like, oh, I might die, because I like to talk and I'm very, outgoing, but it just freaked me out. And it was I just rambled the whole time, and it was all over the place. It's hilarious to go back and watch it now. I want to say it was 22 minutes long. It was really long, but and I was very I said yes to her, and then for hours after that, it was I can't do this. I told her I would do it, but I really can't do it. And I did, and it was 22 minutes long. And then from that one video, that basically was turning a page in my business. I went from just posting and talking about it and encouraging my really small group of people to surround me and do this with me. And basically anyone who was following me on Facebook were like, I want to sample. I want to sign up. How do I buy these products? It was just boom. It was so huge for me. And that was because she totally put belief in me because of that. And it was amazing. I'm Carissa's biggest fan.
I love it. Love it. And so if you guys, and we're running out of time, so I really encourage you to share things like that with your threads that you're in. But let's buzz through a couple more things. I have 5 pages of notes. I won't go through them all. But make sure that you're not whining. Whining does not help. There are times, like Kara said, that you can vent a little bit, but then move on. Don't whine. What did he say? I already kind of touched on this, and that doesn't have to do with whining. But don't whine. Whining wears people out. It's not acceptable. Just don't do it. And I'm not going to ask that question, but just think about that. Think about if you're allowing that to happen on your team page, like Carissa said, or within your team threads or however you guys communicate. I really feel strongly about not letting that happen publicly. Let people be heard, but try and direct them to one-on-one if they need to vent, and then redirect. It does not need to bring the whole mood and the whole team culture and atmosphere down. That is not productive in any way. So just don't do it. I'm gonna buzz through some of this. I'm gonna jump right to the exceeding expectations. I think that this is stuck out. We went to a Kelly Norman thing. She's in Plexus, I think. And she talked, one of the things she really hit on was that that's just the type of person she has decided to be, to exceed expectations. Just whenever you do things, and I think about it when I'm at the gym, like whenever I feel myself starting to quit, I'm like, no, that is not who I am. You have the ability. You can do this. Push through. Whenever you start to hurt on something, push through it, because chances are that is just a sign that you're doing the right thing. And never be completely satisfied. Keep pushing. Like if things are going good with your business, just assume that there's a better way. There are people coming up with better ways to do things all the time. Always do what works, but be looking for ways to do it better. Don't just assume that this is working, so this is going to work forever and it's going to be great, because things change all the time. So just be on the lookout. Have that mindset of things can improve all the time, because they will. And if you aren't finding the way to do it, someone else will, and it may not work for you the way it works for them. So be looking for the ways that it can work for you and that you can improve. He went on to, he talked about the doors to willingness. I can't remember who he said it, but it was basically questions about like asking, what can I do better? Who can help me with this? Who has been there? Who can help assist me in making this better? And I loved that he was asking those questions, and it reminded me of The Secret Code of Success. And I'm sure most of you have all heard of that book. If you haven't, you need it, by Noah St. John. It talks about asking questions and opposed to telling yourself affirmations. And I thought that was really good, and it just kind of solidified that as well. And then onto the failure, always be open to failing. It's everyone who has succeeded has failed. And I'm sorry, I'm really rushing because I want to respect your time. The only people who have not tried have not failed. So if the only people that are not experiencing failures are the ones that are not trying anything new. So be willing to fail and have some sort of plan in place for when you do fail, so that you don't quit. I'm going to skip over some of this, and I think I'm just going to jump right to the homework because I know we are at 9:30. So the first homework was doing the gratitude journal, and for the next week, write something good down in the morning, one thing, and then build on it at night before you go to bed. Do that for at least 7 days, but I really think you should do it for at least 30. And then just pay attention to your attitude. Ask someone close to you if they've noticed any changes, what changes they've noticed, and just be aware of what's happening. And you probably won't want to stop after 30 days. And then also he challenged us to do the plan to fail step. And so take a professional risk this month that you think is likely to fail, so that you can use the steps that he went through in the end of the chapter to improve your attitude. And Carissa said, if you're not failing, you're probably not growing, always evolving. Yes. So we'll put the homework on the page, and thank you guys for being here and interacting. And I hope that you love this chapter, and I hope that it helps improve your attitude. All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.